Houston.
Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willis. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and every nook and cranny receiving the 100,000 watt transmitter that we send to you guys into that magical little box that Howard Reynolds loved to use. Guess what, folks? Remember, that's done through as well the internet. That's how we get to the rest of the world. Barcelona, Spain, and everywhere else, folks. Listen. Remember, you are the creators of that magic, not the billionaires, nobody else. We the people, what we have to reclaim, folks, and we are going to reclaim it. But we have a full show today. We have some great guests. So before we get started, however, let's throw it to the studio. Jack Van Bebbe, Howard Reynolds. ¿Qué pasó?
¿Qué pasó?
Yeah.
Guten Tag, wie geht's?
German. All right, brother. I didn't know you had it in you.
Auf Deutsch. Yes.
Oh, okay. Ich liebe dich.
Absolutely. Hey, we're going to be a good show today. I want to tell all the folks again that we have a remote coming up, a remote broadcast from under the volcano. Clint Broussard will be on location for you to meet and spin some records out there. Of course, we're not really spinning records, but we're going to be out there meeting the folks 5 until 7 at Under the Volcano on Sunday. Then the following Thursday, it's Ronnie and Tom, the R&R show at Christian's Tailgate. Big deal going on over there about the Texas Radio Hall of Fame, of which I will never be a member of. But still in all, we've got remote broadcasts coming up. It's your chance to come out and meet us face to face. Now, some of us have faces for radio, which I do. Jack doesn't. He looks sort of like Cary Grant. But we all want to look forward.
I'm going to stop you there. I am going to break in and stop you. Let me tell you something, guys.
No.
Howard Reynolds is a handsome dude, okay? And, everybody want to hug him when they see him, so don't let him fool you. He has a TV voice. I mean, a TV face. TV face. All right.
There we go. So anyway, this is your opportunity to come out, meet us and greet us, mingle with the other listeners too, talk about KPFT and what's going on here, and just have a really good time. That is Sunday from 5 until 7 under the volcano, and Thursday at Christian's Tailgate on Kirby with the R&R show. So come on out and see us. Jack, you got looks like you got a whole page of wisdom over there.
Here goes Jack.
I can't wait to hear it.
Well, it's not wisdom today. I'm getting some pushback about dropping people. So I'm gonna make a little statement about why, excuse me, I drop people. Number one, Egberto is the host. When a caller is not listening to his direction and it descends into chaos, I listen for the caller to yield, but not very long. If the chaos lasts longer than about 5 or 6 seconds, you will get dropped. And I do this for the listener's sake. I do this for sometimes the caller's sake. I don't have to worry about Egberto's sake because he's well able to take care of himself. And if he needs to be corrected, he's man enough to do it. So you can put your ideology out there on the airwaves, but don't expect them to go unchallenged. And me personally, I don't give a pass to religious dogma or sexism. And I want to thank Ray and Derek for helping me with Jacob yesterday. Thank you very much, Ray and Derek.
Yeah, we don't mind Jacob calling in and expressing his opinion, but you can't overtalk the host. There are rules to follow. And if you don't follow those rules, your call gets dropped and we move on to the next person, and you may or may not get back on. So please, courtesy is the utmost, especially in talk radio. You have to, it's one person at a time. You can't talk over each other. It doesn't work that way. No, you end up with a big mess. So please be respectful, be kind, state your opinions, maybe argue your opinions, but it's one at a time. That goes for Jacob, that goes for Brian, that goes for everybody. Because sometimes Brian just gets a little carried away, and we don't mind that. That's fine, because he's very passionate about what he believes in. And we all are.
Yes.
And that's fine, but please, it's a radio show. The listener who's not involved in whatever argument there is going on, you can't hear anything. You can't understand what they're saying. They're talking on top of each other, and that's just not the way it's going to work. So, folks, have a little courtesy, and we'll be courteous back to you. And in fact, Egberto will say, I gave you 3 minutes to talk. Now it's my turn to rebut whatever you said or agree with whatever you said. So there are rules. If you don't follow the rules, it's like anywhere else. You're going to get thrown off.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Let me tell you, first of all, I appreciate that. You know, we don't like throwing anybody off at all. We don't like doing that. But again,
No.
The most important thing is the person that's listening to the program. We have to make it that they want to learn, they want to be a part of it, etc. So absolutely so. But look, guys, we are going to have a great program. The title of the show today is Economist Says Harris' Plan is Best. Vance knew the truth about Springfield, Ohio. But you know what? We're probably not going to get to those videos because we have some great guests here today. Things that are of import not only to Harris County, though these are the experts here in Harris County, but to the entire country. I want you guys to listen to what they have to say because we have a lot to talk about. So we're honored to have both Neil Aquino, who is our Thursday regular here with the Houston Democracy Project, as well as Nicole Pedersen. I hope I got your name right. Nicole, who is here, is going to talk about our voter integrity and much more. So let me give the floor let's start out here with El Señor Aquino. Aquino, talk to me.
Great. Good morning. Good morning. It's our Thursday Houston Democracy Project segment. And we wanted to have, which you can go to houstondemocracy.com, and you should go there often. And we wanted to have Nicole on because Nicole is running the important voter protection program for the Harris County Democratic Party. And so what prompted me to want to have Nicole on, beyond the importance of the subject, is that I was on one of her Zoom trainings. I'll actually be on an additional Zoom training with Nicole and others today to get a little deeper into the program. But Nicole just was able to field, it was a big Zoom room, lots of people, and Nicole was able to field all the questions, which I know sets her up today, but she was able to field all the questions, and it was an important it's an important topic because we're talking about making sure everyone can vote, making sure people can't stop you from vote, making sure people feel secure at the polls. So let's Nicole, tell us a little bit about yourself first.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So yes, I run the voter protection program at the Harris County Democratic Party. Voter protection just means it is the right of everyone to vote, right? Everyone who can legally vote should get to vote, and their vote should count. And it's my job to try to make sure that happens. And that's it. You know, it's something that I joke, or maybe it's not a joke, but it shouldn't really exist, right? We shouldn't have to do this. If people have a constitutional right to vote, they should just get to vote. That should be the end of it. But unfortunately, particularly in Texas, that's not really the case. So lawyers like me are here to help fight for that right. So I live in Harris County. I am a local attorney, and I run this program now for the Democrats to make sure that everybody who can legally vote gets to vote.
And your field as an attorney was not election law, right? Something entirely different.
Yes, entirely different. So I am an international trade compliance attorney.
Right. Okay. And how did you how did you come to this work?
So I've always been involved in politics since I was born. My parents actually met at a demonstration in the 60s. So really, I have always been part of activism. And then in 2016, when Trump won, I just felt like I needed to get more involved. I have two little girls, and I was concerned about the world that we were leaving to them. So I wanted to do something more. And at the time, my friend, Lily Schechter, was chair of the Harris County Democratic Party. And she mentioned to me that she wanted to make voter protection bigger than it had been before in Harris County. And that she had asked a few people, and no one really had any ideas of how to do it. And I, with complete naivete, right? Like I had no background in voter protection. I just said, no, I think I could do that. I think I could make it bigger than it's been before. And she said, okay, great, do it. So then I was stuck, right? So then I had to do it. And so I did. So it took a few years, and we built it up, but we're now the biggest partisan voter protection program in Texas.
And the program, so there's a lot of questions there, and I'm recalling some things that we've talked about at lunch, and then also on the Zoom call. So you're covering not just Harris County, though. For example, in one of the most important races in Harris County are the 10 appellate court seats, which cover 10 counties, the bulk of the voters here in Harris County, then also many in Fort Bend County. So, and then also you're working with the Texas Democratic Party, and our program is in the county is so significant we're able to help others. So can you build on those questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Texas Democratic Party, which is our state party, has sort of outsourced voter protection in Harris County to us since 2018, which is when I started getting involved. Which just makes sense because we have the local connections, and we have this robust program, and so they can use the resources in other parts of the state since we've got Harris County covered. This year, I'm working to build a Southeast Texas coalition for voter protection. So I'm working with the chairs of the surrounding counties to help them put in place voter protection to the extent that they don't already have it, to help them build these programs. In part, the way that we've done it here in Harris County, and also just to put us all in touch with each other, to support each other.
And so Egberto mentioned the great reach of the KPFT transmitter. So let's talk about some of those other counties. What just list some of the other counties you're working with?
So I'm working with Fort Bend, Matagorda, Galveston, Brazoria, and Montgomery. And we are open to others.
Right. Okay. And I wager they are appreciative for the coordination.
I think so. We had our first meeting last night, so I hope so.
Oh, okay. Okay, perfect. So so there are different aspects of the program. There are poll watchers, correct, that you're hoping for, and then so we'll talk about that first, and then there's a voter protection hotline. So tell us about the poll watchers you're hoping, and make a good push for folks to volunteer and tell them how to do it.
So I'm happy to do that. So poll watchers are just the eyes and ears of our program. They're like an alarm system that we put throughout the county. So being a poll watcher, what that means is that you have to be a registered voter of the county in which you want to serve as a poll watcher. And then we'll train you. You have to take some training that the Secretary of State offers online, but we'll also give you some training so that you feel very comfortable. And then we'll assign you to a polling location, and you just go and you sit inside the polling location and you watch. You're actually not allowed to talk to any voters. Really, the only person you should talk to is the election judge, and even that would probably be quite minimal. You're there to observe. But the benefit of this is that if something starts to go wrong, you can walk outside and you can call me and my team so that we can help. So, for example, if the power goes out in a polling location, right, and now the voters can't vote because there's no more power in the location. Well, the election judge is going to be scrambling to try to help, right? They're going to be working with all of the people in line, trying to get on the phone with the county, just doing whatever they can to get that situation fixed. But the poll watcher can walk outside and call me. And then I have developed relationships with all of the local government agencies who have something to do with elections. So when I hear that an entire polling location has now gone offline because there's no more power, I can make a call straight to our wonderful county clerk, Tanisha Hudspeth, herself, right? So I can make that call straight to Clerk Hudspeth. and let her know that this is happening so that she can immediately get in touch with Tex or whoever she needs to get there, to get that power back on. We sometimes find out about issues with the poll watcher program before the county does, because we have this program set up so that it is very, very quick, right? And that's the point. We want to make sure that any problems that arise can be dealt with as fast as possible so people are back voting again. The other really key thing that poll watchers do is that they are witnesses, right? So some of our election judges and election workers in this, I'm hearing an echo. Our workers in this atmosphere are concerned about being accused of something they have not done. And so they ask me to send poll watchers to their locations just to watch, so that if there is an accusation, there's somebody else who is there taking notes who can just say, no, look, I was in there all day long. Here's what happened. So it gives our election workers much more confidence to do their job. So being a poll watcher is super easy to sign up. You can go to our website, harrisdemocrats.org, and there's sign up there. That's the best way to do it. As I joke a lot, that this is a perfect volunteer gig for introverts because you don't have to talk to anyone. I don't know if you've ever had to door knock where you walk around and knock on doors, but it's a little bit intimidating. You have to walk up and you have to talk to strangers, and you should do that. It's important, but it's also a little intimidating. Poll watching is easy, right? You just have to walk into a location and watch. And the only person you have to talk to really, other than the election judge, to introduce yourself is me. So super important. It's also really nice, I think, to be able to do something that is so important just by being a body in a room. Usually the easy volunteer jobs are the least effective volunteer jobs, but this isn't true of this. This is one of those where it's super easy and it's really important and effective.
So I'm sure Alberto has some questions, and I always like to clarify even the most basic terms for this. So you've referenced the poll judge, and so how does one become the poll? So for the experience of the voter, you've gone, and they're the people who check you in, and there's a presiding judge there, right? There's someone. So whom is it? Are they a Republican or a Democrat? And then also, will there be Republican poll watchers? A second question at this, and then what? And so what about that?
Yes. Okay. So the person who is running the election site, the polling location, is called an election judge or a presiding judge. They're not really judges, right? They're not judges in the way that we think of them, that we think of judges. Like, they may not be lawyers, they don't preside over a courtroom, but they're just called the election judge or the presiding judge. And then everybody else who works in the polling location, the people who check you in, the people who take your ID in Texas and scan it, all of those people are your election clerks, right? During early vote in Harris County, all of the presiding judges will be Democrats. There's an alternate judge who is from the other party. And the alternate judge, they work mostly as a clerk, but then if the presiding judge needs to step away, the alternate judge can step in.
Why will they all be Democrats?
So it goes back to the last gubernatorial, and this is in the law. This is in the election code, the Texas election code. It says that the way you determine during early vote whether the judge is going to be a Democrat or a Republican is you look at the results of the last gubernatorial. So if the county as a whole voted for the Democratic candidate, then all of those election judges are going to be Democrats. If they voted for the Republican candidate, then all of those judges will be Republicans. And then the alternate judges will be Democrats. On election day, it's precinct by precinct. So we have our little neighborhood precincts, and you look at who that precinct voted for in the last gubernatorial, and that's how you find out if the election judge in that precinct will be a Democrat or a Republican.
Mm-hmm. But countywide voting remains, right? The Republicans are targeted. You can still, if I live in, no matter where I live in a county, if I'm 20 miles away within the county, I can vote there.
Yes, and this is key. So let me say it very clearly because I think it's so important. In Harris County, if you're registered to vote in Harris County, you can vote at any polling location in Harris County on early vote or on election day. The Republicans have been targeting this. They've had some meetings over the past few months talking about countywide voting and calling it into question. Countywide voting is a wonderful tool that we have. Before countywide voting, hundreds of people would be turned away at each poll sometimes just because they were at the wrong location. Our polling locations change from election to election because it has to do on which facilities are available, and there's lots of factors that go into which polling locations are chosen. So the problem with not having countywide voting is just confusion, right? People don't know where they are assigned. And they found it very difficult to figure that out. So we would have reports back in 2018, before we had countywide voting, of people coming in and just being, hundreds being turned away. I had one report of a polling location that had so few voters who were actually assigned there who showed up that when they did get someone, they would applaud because it was, it was that rare. So changing the countywide voting, where you can vote at any polling location in Harris County, I think has done a wonderful thing and has made voting just much easier for those of us who live in Harris County.
Okay, and then will there be, the second question was, I'm a poll watcher. Will there be a Republican? We're not allowed to speak to each other, right? So maybe it's a staring contest or something.
Yes, so there will likely be Republican poll watchers as well. In the past few elections, they have had a different strategy than us, right? We are eyes and ears. I train our poll watchers. You're just there to observe. They come in with lists of questions, or they have recently, just lists of questions, and they go to the election judge and they ask question after question after question.
Why?
Well, look, there is this myth that election fraud is out there. Despite millions of dollars of investigation, they have not been able to find it. But they continue to look. Right. And so it is, it's my feeling, and there was some video that was leaked in 2020 showing the poll watcher training on the Republican side, where the trainer was saying to the poll watchers that it is their job to find election fraud. And look, election fraud just doesn't exist. It's not happening. So they're trying to find this thing that does not exist, at least not in numbers great enough to affect any election. And therefore, they come in with these lists of questions where they're just trying to find this thing that doesn't exist, right? So they keep asking and asking and asking and asking, and they can't find anything, but they just keep going. Unfortunately, it can be very tiresome for the election judge. It can get in the way of what they're trying to do, which is process voters. But for Democrat poll watchers, you should not really have interaction with the Republican poll watchers. You're not allowed to talk to them. So if you do see a poll watcher who you think is crossing the bounds of what is appropriate, if they are not allowing election workers to do their job, then you can walk outside and call me, and then we'll get in touch with whatever we need to do to try to stop them, which usually would be a call to the county attorney's office so they can go and investigate and see if that poll watcher is in fact abusing their rights, and then they can take action from there.
Great. I think that's a great launch. We'll talk about the voter hotline, and appreciate the time, Egbert.
Yeah, let me ask a couple of things, because specifically when you mentioned about voter fraud, I want the audience to know something, because we have a blended audience here of all sides, and you talk about the myth of voter fraud. That is it's what folks like to talk about. Let me remind folks that Dan Patrick offered $25 million of his campaign money for anybody who would find fraud in Texas or elsewhere. And there was no fraud at all found on the side of the Democrats. But instead, what occurred is that fraud was in fact found, but it was fraud in trying to double vote for Donald Trump. And it turned out that Patrick had to pay the Pennsylvania citizen for the fraud that was occurring in favor of Trump. So let's be clear here. It is time for us to wake up and understand that the fraud, there is a bit of fraud, but it generally occurs on the side that's pointing the finger. As they say, you point a finger, therefore pointing back. That's what we found. Secondly, what I'd like to ask you, Nicole, is what we have just a few more days left to register to vote. Explain to people what exactly does that mean and what happens if that day pass, and also what happens if they screw up on the day of the election, even after you've been registered to vote.
So, unfortunately, in Texas, I believe it is more difficult to register to vote in Texas than any other state. Um, we don't have online vote registration. We do not have same day registration, which would be where you can register the same day as the election. Instead, what we have in Texas, there is a deadline for this election. It is October 7th. So you must be registered to vote before October 7th. To register, you have to have an actual application. You can print it off online. There's also various ways you can get one, but you have to have a paper
Physical
application. Paper. Right, that you fill out, and then you put it in an envelope, you find a stamp, and you mail that in to your voter registrar. It is difficult, right? As I'm saying, especially with young people. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't even keep stamps in my house anymore. I can't remember the last time I sent out a letter that way.
I don't keep stamps, cash, anything.
Right, exactly. So it's very, very difficult.
You're making me feel old.
Yeah, I mean, this is just an antiquated way of doing things, but it's intentional. The reason they're doing this is they want it to be difficult, right? Because that keeps the numbers in favor of one party.
Right, because older voters they remember their stamps and filling out pieces of paper. The younger voters are used to doing everything online and having things done instantaneously. In fact, there shouldn't even be a reason to register to vote. It's sort of ridiculous that we're doing that. I tell you what, let's go ahead and go to the phones. Let's go ahead and bring Harry into the discussion. Come on in, Harry.
Good morning, Neil. Good morning, Nicole. Good morning, Mark. I'm sorry. Good morning, Howard. Good morning, Jack. And good morning, Professor Alberto Willis. Thanks for all that voting information. I wanted to talk about 3 points here. What Arnie Arson's been talking about on our show the last couple of days. Tag mentioned this once. If Donald Trump does get back in there, hopefully he will not. I pray that he doesn't. The 20% tariff tax. Arnie Arneson, with their guests yesterday and today, was talking about how if he's able to mass, which I think is all a lie. I just think he's doing that to try to get people's votes, to mass deport people that are undocumented here. As Arnie Arneson pointed out, the people that are working undocumented, 1/3 of the taxes that they pay go to our Medicare and go to our Social Security. So that would hurt our Medicare and Social Security if Donald Trump were able to do that and deport a lot of undocumented people. But Donald Trump is part of the problem anyway, because he has a lot of those he's had a lot of those undocumented people working at his golf courses and his hotels and things like of that nature. Now, the other thing I was going to point out is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That Arnie was talking about. He was saying that because it shouldn't matter how late that he wants to get his name off the off the ballot in the swing states, and they already printed these ballots out, and they would be breaking the law, and the state Supreme Court in these swing states like North Carolina, for example, want to help him get his name off the ballot because he's trying to help Trump, because he doesn't want people voting for him if he's on the ballot, because that'll take votes away from Trump and help Kamala Harris. And
okay, Harry.
I was just opinions on those things.
Well, okay. You want to say anything about that, Nicole?
Well, I mean, I can. He brought up undocumented workers. I can tie that back to voting and voting rights, which is that we've seen these accounts recently where the Governor Abbott has said that there have been undocumented people who have registered to vote that have been thrown off the rolls. I don't know how that would even be possible. I mean, you cannot register to vote if you are not a citizen of the U.S. And there are checks that the Republican Secretary of State runs when people register to vote. So I know this is not a direct response to the caller, but I did just want to bring that up while we had the chance. That it's not an issue, I think, that is as prevalent as the governor is making out.
No, but
I think that's a good.
Call,
Go
Harry.
ahead.
Not as prevalent, but nearly non-existent.
That's my guess. Yes.
Well, here's the thing. First of all, it's all a ruse when it comes to what they're trying to do with the undocumented, etc. Look, we want to have control of our borders. That's definite. But the idea that undocumented workers are a burden to our society in the aggregate is a provably mathematically false statement. Again, if we were to get rid of absolutely all the undocumented workers in this country, our economy will collapse. And not only would our economy collapse, but our Medicare system as well as our Social Security system would be in trouble, as these people pay into these systems and never take out any benefits. That's a statement of fact. Anybody telling you otherwise, they absolutely don't know what they're talking about. But Harry, I got to go to the other caller, my dear brother. We'll talk tomorrow. Let's go to Sister Betty. Come on in, Betty. How you doing, my dear friend?
I'm doing okay. I probably need to stay out of this. It's about your two subjects on Jacob and Brian. I probably need to stay out of it. But Jacob, he's the type all his life. All he knows is just to get in the way. But Brian, that's something maybe you need to handle with kid gloves, because there's what I've seen, a woman's instinct, and listening to him all this time. There's a big man trying to come out, or a little boy trying to come out. Him and his wife are collaborating the whole time, and it's not just him that's, talking there. Like Tuesday, he couldn't finish what he was trying to say because it was too fast for him. So that's why he brought it up yesterday morning, because he could handle it a lot better. So he's, he is, you are his world. You want to think about that too.
Thank you, Betty. Betty, let me just ask you one thing. Are you registered to vote, sis?
Why?
Are you registered to vote?
Who, me?
Yes.
My God, I've been voting for 64 years.
Good. Okay. Well, you make sure and check that you're still registered, because they've been throwing people off the rolls. Nicole can tell you how to do that. Nicole, how can she make sure that she's registered?
Yeah, and this is so important. I'm so glad that you brought it up. Everyone should check. Even if you are sure that you're registered, go check. So in Harris County, the best place to do that is harrisvotes.com. Go there and you will find a link to our tax assessor collector's office where you can check your registration. Outside Harris County, the Secretary of State has the links for you to check.
Thank you very much, Nicole. Let's go. Thank you, Betty. I got to go to the...
passing the word. I'm telling people that they got October the 7th.
You're a good woman. You're a good woman. Thank you so kindly, Betty. Let's go to Donald. Donald has a serious question. Thanks, sis. Donald, come on in.
Good morning, Alberto. Good morning, Nicole and Neil. How are you this morning?
All good.
All good, my brother. Talk to me.
Good. Oh, okay, can you check on the felons that have been reinstated? How can you tell the listeners out there, for people that have had their voting rights suspended, once they complete all their requirements, how they can make sure, or where they can go to make sure that they're legally able to vote again? And we don't want incidents like, I believe it was Mr. Rogers that Egberto covered, that was very good, very in-depth.
Thank you for that one, Donald. That's a very important question, my brother. You're serious when you said, I've got a serious question. So, Nicole, what's the answer?
Okay, so anyone who has committed a felony must be off paper before they can vote again, right? And that means that you have served all of your time, all of the requirements, everything is done, right? No more probation, nothing. You have done it all. At that point, you need to re-register. to vote. So go on and register just like everybody else who registers to vote. You fill out that application and mail it in.
And
Now,
I want
Nicole,
to
I
be
have
so.
a question. Wait, hold on a second.
And I want to be
I have
clear.
a specific question to you, though. Do we have, you said they have to be paper clear. Now, there are times when a felon has to pay a fine. Does that mean the fine has to be completely paid as well?
So I'm not a criminal defense attorney, so I don't know the ins and outs of this so well, but I do know that everything has to be done. So I believe so, but I could be wrong about that.
Okay. Neil, you said you wanted to say something?
No. That gets to it. And Nicole, as we proceed, tell us about the voter hotline.
Yeah, so we have a voter hotline. It's running now. Phone number is 844 Texas Votes, so TXVOTES. If you call, first thing they'll ask you is if you're in Harris County, you can press option 2 for Harris County, and then you're going to be connected with my volunteers. If you're anywhere else in Texas, you'll be put into, you'll be sent to volunteers in other parts of the state who can answer your questions. It is mostly voter facing, right? So that means that any voter with questions can call in. The questions we're getting right now mostly have to do with questions about how to register or questions about how vote by mail works. So lots of questions, particularly from seniors, asking if they've applied before for vote by mail, will they necessarily get a ballot by mail this year? Which the answer is no. You have to reapply every single year. But I am looking for volunteers to help us run that hotline. So that's something that Neil, you've signed up to do, and I'm very grateful. So I will train you, right? We give you lots of resources. We show you how to do it. It's super easy. You can do it from home. You just need an internet connection and a computer, and you can answer these calls. I find that the calls are really nice. You know, you're answering these questions, but it's usually people who are really grateful for the help. You can have some really wonderful, heartwarming conversations. It's just a really nice thing to do, and it is again a pretty easy volunteer job because you can do it from home. So if you're interested in signing up for that, same place, harrisdemocrats.org, that's our website. And you can sign up right there to volunteer on the hotline. We'll get you trained and get you all set up.
Thank you very much, Nicole. And Donald, I appreciate the question. Very important question. We have some questions from the chat as well. Shannon Andrea says, can we talk about how you can register to vote if you're 17 years and 10 months old by October 7th?
Yes, so that is correct. You have to be 18 to vote in the election, but if you were 17 years and 10 months, you're going to be 18 by the time of the election, so you can go ahead and register to vote and still get to vote as soon as you turn 18 for this election. So if you have not turned 18 yet and you're not going to be 18 before October 7th, but you are turning 18 after October 7th, register to vote. Go ahead and do it, right? As soon as you are 17 and 10 months old, you can do it.
And John Carter says, I don't think an undocumented person is going to try to vote and risk getting deported just to cast a vote. I mean, it has always been silly to think that undocumented people are going to somehow fill up the voting rolls because they're trying to hide. They want to be as low profile as possible. That is likely also the reason why the crime rate for the undocumented is so much lower than for the immigrant or otherwise. So let's be clear here, folks. Common sense. Right-wing propaganda makes you less smart. You know, an undocumented person is one of the smartest people here. You know why? Because they were able to beat the system to get in. As an immigrant myself, I can tell you something, folks. It makes one seem silly when they purport to think that undocumented people are somehow going to try to get into this system and find a way to find the law. Let's go to Bard, line number 2.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Thank you. Nicole, I would like, my name's Bard and I'm a Democrat, and I would like to volunteer to be a poll watcher in District 18 if that's possible. So I'm going to look you up on how I can do that. And I think, Egberto, you may have misspoke a little bit there. The thing is not the illegal aliens voting. It's like our good Democrat District Attorney Kim Ogg went down to vote for herself in the last election and found out that, oh, guess what? Somebody had already voted in her name. And that's what's happening. Is there are
okay, first of all,
illegal aliens
Brother Bard, let me tell you, that
Bard.
doesn't happen hardly. And right now, there's nothing that comes, Kim, I've spoken to Kim several times. I even consider Kim Ogg a friend, but I'm very disappointed in Kim Ogg because of her position. So right now, if something comes out of her relative to party, I don't give a whole lot of credence to. Again, I still consider her a friend, but this is politics. Now, that said, what you just said about these issues with voter fraud, etc., it's generally non-existent, and when it does exist, it's mostly on the side of the right. That's a statement of fact. Secondly, let me just tell you, Nicole, and because Bard, another good friend of the show, a brother MAGA kind of a guy, let me just ask you this. How do you protect the integrity of the people that you bring into the fold to prevent Bard, who's going to call into you to say, I want to be a Democratic watcher? How do you guard against an infiltrator that Bard would probably be if he were to come in and work with you?
Oh, what? Come on now.
Hold on, Bard. I'm not done. Be quiet while she answers. Go ahead,
So we
Nicole.
do check voting history. Voting history in Texas is public, so I can see which primaries you voted in. So we'll look and see which primaries you voted in. In some cases, we'll even do social media searches to see what kinds of things you're posting online, to try to catch somebody who might want to join our ranks just to cause problems.
That's
And you
why
will work
when
with
Bart,
people.
go ahead,
Let me
Neil.
say, I know Bart's joking around, but he had he had referenced CD18. You'll work with people to give them a proximate location to their home. Isn't that? Don't I recall that right from your?
Absolutely. So when a volunteer signs up, look, Harris County is massive, right? We are bigger than half the states. So I'm not going to ask somebody who lives in the northwest corner to drive to the southeast corner because that would not be useful for anyone. So yes, I work to make sure that we put you in the geographic boundaries that you want. I try to make sure no one's driving more than a half hour. And also time, right? I'm very flexible on time. So if you've only got 2 hours on election day and you want to volunteer, I'll take it, right? Whatever you've got, we will work with you.
And you're looking to cover early vote too, so it's a massive right.
Yes, early vote and election day. That's correct.
All right, let's go ahead and go to Bard. Anything else, real quick? You got about 10 seconds.
Yeah, Nicole, I think you were wrong about no problems in the elections. In this last midterm with the county judge, there was a guy that was supposed to deliver paper.
Okay, Bard, I'm sorry, I'm going to Bard. I'm moving on because again, you're bringing in conspiracy right wing stuff that makes absolutely no sense. I love you, but you're no brother. Bye bye. Love you, but bye bye. Let's go ahead and go to Brother Art.
Yes, thanks for taking my call. Couple quick things. Can you go over what forms of ID you need? I know that can be an issue for some. You can't come in with the high school ID.
Wow.
But can you just hit those real quick? What forms of ID we need?
Great
and
question,
also there
Art. Great question.
Way you can do the mail way, but I think there's an easier way. Usually when you go apply for your driver's license or ID, it's automatically done. Like if you're already in the system, I automatically get it in the mail. Now you can go the hard way, mailing it in if you want to do it that way, but there's no reason to do that. And I understand there's people like in rural areas or people may not have a driver's license or not qualified, but there are easier ways to do it. So it's not as challenging as we can say it is, but it is pretty easy.
Thanks, Brother Art. Let her answer. Let her answer, Art. Let's go ahead and let her answer because we have a lot of calls. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Come on in, Nicole.
Let me go to the part about the IDs. I'm not exactly sure what you meant by it's easier than we're saying, but let's just go over the IDs. So I actually brought it up on my screen because I wanted to make sure that I'm reading exactly the right one. So it's the Texas driver's license, Texas handgun license, United States citizenship certificate that has your photograph, Texas personal ID card issued by DPS, Texas election identification certificate issued by DPS, a U.S. passport, book or card, or a U.S. military identification card containing your photograph. So for most people, this is going to be your driver's license, right, or maybe a passport. If you do not own one of these types of ID, you can still vote in Texas, right? So the way to do that is you will come into the polling location. You will explain to them that you do not own one of these IDs. Now, if you own one and you just didn't bring it, you got to go back and get it, right? But if you do not own it, you can tell the election workers that you do not own one of these IDs. They will give you a form to fill out that will explain. It's called a reasonable impediment declaration. You'll fill that out, explain that you do not own one of these IDs, and then you can prove your identity another way, such as a utility bill or a bank statement or something like that.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, all right, I got to go to the other caller because we're filled up. Let's go to Kendall. Kendall, you're on. Kendall, you're on. Okay, let's go to Bill.
Hi, Berto. Long-time listener, first-time caller. My concern is we know what the games they're playing with purging the voter rolls. I've been checking mine weekly, as has my wife. What do you do, or is there any mechanism to stop them from purging the voter rolls after the October 7th deadline?
Okay, so let me, if it's okay, I'll explain what's going on with this whole suspense list. So I'm sure you're referring to what the governor and the attorney general have been putting out, saying that there's now, I don't remember the number anymore, but 1 million people who they've knocked off the rolls. That is not true. What has happened is those people have gone onto the suspense list, which is what happens every year. That says that if your voter registration card is returned for whatever reason when it is mailed to you, right? Because you've moved or, whatever reason it is that the mailman can't deliver that to your house, then the voter registrar will send a confirmation to you asking you to confirm that you live where you say you live. Many people ignore that, right? Because you get it in the mail and you don't know what it is, and it looks like a scam, right? Because it's somebody asking you to confirm that you live at this address, right? And so a lot of people just completely ignore it. If you ignore it, you go onto the suspense list. The suspense list says if you are on the suspense list for 2 general elections, then you get purged off the lists, right? But the nice thing about this, and there isn't a lot of nice things about this, but the one nice thing is that the best way to get off the suspense list is just vote. So if you were put on the suspense list in the last few months, you can just vote in this upcoming election. You vote a normal ballot. You don't even have to use a provisional ballot. You're going to have to fill out a form that confirms your address, but that's it. You don't have to worry about it. They're going to give it to you when you get there. You don't even have to remember. They will take care of this. And then when you vote, you come off the suspense list, you're back to normal, right? So that's one thing that I want to put out there because I'm worried that people are going to be very confused about this because of all the rhetoric that's gone out. I think that the governor and the attorney general are trying to score points with their base by turning this into this thing. But really, the suspense list, this happens every single year. And best way to get off of it is go vote. So if you're worried you're on the suspense list, go vote. If you're not worried you're on the suspense list, go vote. Everybody who can legally vote should vote. So that's one thing. There are purges in Texas, unfortunately, right? It should not happen between October 7th and the election because of the Voting Rights Act. That should not occur. But again, everyone should check their voter registration to make sure they are still on the list because you may think that you are registered and you've been purged for whatever reason, right? And mistakes are made too, right? they compare these to death rolls. The whole thing about people who are not citizens. We've seen cases where it's somebody who maybe their father has the same name as the son, and so the son is purged from the list thinking that they're the non-citizen, but actually it's the father, right? There are mistakes that are made. So absolutely, everybody, go check and make sure you're still registered to vote.
And folks, that is at harrisvotes.org, correct? Harrisvotes.org.
Harrisvotes.com.
Harrisvotes.com. Thank you for correcting that.
Yeah.
Harrisvotes.com. All right, folks. Thank you, Bill. Let's go to Johnny.
Okay, I call Galveston County Registrar. I call them directly when I want to verify my vote, and she's very friendly. And the number there is 409, area code 409 766 2280, 766 2280. And I got that number off of the white and yellow voter registration certificate. So this is dated from December of 23. So I'm pretty sure it's up to date. And if I have any problems with that, then I go to the Secretary of State's office on the internet. And I've had problems with the Secretary of State's office in the past. That's why I call my county directly for those in Galveston County. So I missed Nicole's answer about what kind of, are there any criminal penalties for people like Bart who say, oh, I'm a Democrat and I'd like to volunteer? Because if he's a Democrat, guess what? I'm Governor Abbott.
I don't.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nicole. I don't think there are penalties.
No, there's no criminal penalties for lying about your affiliation.
Party affiliation.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah. No.
And Nicole,
Okay,
we're in our last 9 minutes, and I want to make sure we get to the calls, but can you just take 30 or 60 seconds? The party is also preparing. There are lawyers for post-election, correct? If we're to just talk about that briefly.
Yeah, absolutely. On the state level and the county level, we have attorneys ready for post-election as well for anything that's thrown at us, any shenanigans that occur. We're ready for whatever comes.
Great, thank you.
That's excellent. All right, Brian, come on in, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. I was going to talk about how bad Kamala Harris is, but I'm going to change the subject when you're talking about voter IDs. Years ago, my wife needed an identification card. She got one, and then she wanted to learn how to drive, and she went down to take her learner's permit, and she didn't even get that. They automatically sent her a driver's license. Less than 1 year later, she received a voter registration card. But it said, under penalty of felony, you cannot vote. But she still received the registration. I work with two people that are on the DACA program. They're not allowed to vote. Guess who got a voter registration card? Both of those DACA kids. Now, if you think just a little bit of a written word is going to say under a felony of federal charge, if they're not going to vote, I think you're wrong.
And what I'll say, Brian, is, let me just say that you are wrong in believing that immigrants are going to try to do anything to somehow get them into the system. Again, there are laws that you don't break because you don't want to confront the system. Folks are just as intelligent as you are, my friend. But thank you, Brian, for the call. Let's go ahead and go to Johnny. Come on in, Johnny, for the second time.
Yeah, you guys misunderstood my question. I wanted to know if there were any criminal penalties for people who present themselves as Democrats to be volunteers, and then in the commission of their duties, they are found to have done something illegal, something to thwart or negate someone's vote. Are there criminal penalties for that?
Nicole?
I mean, so yes, of course, right? If you do something illegal, there are criminal penalties. So negating somebody's vote fraudulently, of course, would be there would be some penalties for that. There are no penalties, of course, for just telling me that you're a Democrat if you're not. Although, please don't do that. And we will check.
Be warned, Bart. We're being fair to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Johnny. Anyway, folks, we are coming up close to the end of the hour. So what I want to do before I go to Neil to ask him to give us a close up on his Houston Democracy Project, give us a closer, Nicole.
As a closer, I guess, look, voting should is a right. It is a constitutional right. It should be easy and safe, and it's not always, and that is a shame. And the ways that everyone who's listening can help, go vote, right? Everybody should vote who can legally vote. Check your voter registration, make sure that you are still registered to vote, and then come help our program. Go to our website, harrisdemocrats.org, and sign up to help.
Thank you very much, Nicole, for being on Politics Done Right. Hey, Neil, give me a closer with regard, as well as tell folks how they can reach you for all the good work that you're doing at the Houston Democracy Project.
Great, thank you, Nicole. Great interview, and thanks to the studio crew and to Egberto and the callers. And you can HoustonDemocracyProject.com, HoustonDemocracyProject.com. I have my daily democracy notes, daily blog, and let me just echo Nicole's. Do volunteer. I'm volunteering with the Voter Protection Hotline, and don't let them mess us up. And let's push back.
Have absolutely no fear. Voting is your right. Don't let all the bloviation and the loud mouth and all the accusations get to you. Your sole job is to go out there and vote for the person that's going to make life better. All right? That's your sole purpose. Without further ado, let's jump to the studio. Studio, how are my peeps doing?
Oh, we're doing pretty good back here. The tin cans and string have held up for yet another day. So we're very happy about that. And I have nothing, but Jack has something he wants to say.
Brother Jack.
Yes, I'll run a PSA at the end of Hugh Talk at about 8:58 that goes over the IDs required to register to vote every day.
Yep.
Thank you so kindly for that, Jack. John Carter on the chat says Texas is one of the hardest states in the country to vote, and this is by design. Yep, because Texas is really a blue state that is being coerced into being red. It's a known fact, and I repeat that to my brother Eric here. That's a fact. To my brother Bard, that's a fact. Okay, but anyhow, we got to get out of here. First of all, folks, for the videos and items we didn't cover, you can find them at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You know, I love you all, my callers, my listeners, whether you're on the left, right, middle, or wherever you are. MAGA, I don't give a you know what. But you know what? Just keep calling, keep talking. That's the way we make a difference. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government buy-in for the people. Voting in state and local elections is at risk for an estimated 97,000 longtime Arizona voters due to a proof of citizenship data tracking problem at the DMV. 3 facts to start. The Arizona Mirror and VoteBeat report that Arizonans have had to provide proof of citizenship for driver's licenses since 1996. State driver's licenses aren't routinely renewed until after age 65, and Arizona began requiring proof of citizenship for voting in 2005. Beginning in 2005, election officials asked existing voters with licenses issued before 1996 for proof of citizenship. But if a driver's license issued before 1996 needed to be replaced, it was given a new date of issue. Election officials then didn't know to ask for